everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the Daily Futures Market Outlook, where we take a look at our big favorite markets and formulate an attack plan for tomorrow's trading. Tomorrow being the 23rd of the month, winding in towards the end of the month, and another slow day under our belt again. You know, we were looking at Monday and Tuesday being pretty good movers, going into Wednesday thinking it'll probably take a break. But then maybe Thursday we'll get back into the swing of things and get moving, and, well, that didn't happen. Another really slow day today. If you stayed awake long enough and kept your patience in check, I'm sure you did just fine, but overall, it definitely requires a lot of patience to trade these types of markets. Anyway, before we jump on in, as always, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign your email up in our list so that we can email you every time one of these videos comes out. Along with this video, we talk about different stocks and cryptocurrencies and different long-term investment options as well. All kinds of stuff inside that newsletter. If it moves, we're probably going to talk about it at some point in a great newsletter to get your hands on. The bottom of the page in the blog post section, don't forget to check those out every day. 2 different posts every day. We have the live trader morning prep levels. We post the major levels of support and resistance before we open the live trade room up every morning. And then in the afternoon, we go over a market psychology video or a trade of the day video where we kind of dig in a little bit further to learn as much as possible. If you haven't done so already, click on the live trader room subscription and trial info that will let you sign up for a 1-day trial in the room. You can sit down with us, see what we're all about, and even on slow days like today, we still get plenty of opportunities to work with as long as you are patient. So, great way to see what we're all about and sit down with us, hang out with us, and yeah, maybe even find some trades. So looking at the euro for the most part it started off kind of in the middle, a little bit of a range, tried to break higher, tried to break lower, tried to break higher, tried to break lower. You get the idea, right? Very range bound, really choppy. But then things kind of shifted a little bit. They tried to break higher again around at, 5 o'clock or so, but they missed that high. They didn't get that break out of the highs and rolled over. With that rollover, that shows that the buyers are losing steam a little bit. We're making before new highs, new lows, new highs, new lows. Why can't the buyers get that next new high? Something's wrong. They're losing their grip a little bit. So we lose their grip a little bit. Buyers' confidence probably shaken just a little. We get another pullback down. They give it one more shot, but that then makes another lower high. And now it really starts to become apparent what's going on. The buyers start to jump ship, and that allows the market to continue a little bit lower. The big thing that we're seeing here, though, is that this move down created a bottom of a wedge, worked really well across the highs here, there, and then dragging that down to here and there. And then we broke down a little bit too aggressively. And a lot of times with that aggressive breakthrough, it blows off one side. It's out of steam, right? There's no more ammo left in the chamber to keep that move going, and it starts falling back on itself. Now, not only that, you expect to see this correct, but you also see this to correct potentially to the top of the channel and even through the channel by a little bit, usually by about the same distance as this breakout down here. So you'd anticipate by the time you get up towards the channel highs, you'd be looking for an equidistant type breakout through the top. And that's kind of what we're looking for right now. So at this point in time, we're range bound and we're definitely looking to sell, but it just depends on when the market comes up towards the highs of those channels. We do have an intermediary sell at 12.075, but aside from that, it's really just a waiting game until we can get to the top of the channel and break through it a little bit before we start digging into some longer term sells. Until then, we do have that shorter one at a resistance area at 12.075, but that's really about it on the euro. Gonna have to keep that patience game in check once again for the poor old euro. It can't seem to get out of its own way. Over on gold, kind of an oddball one here. Big rally to the upside in the overnight session. They tried it one more time and then just completely fell apart at the highs. When they came back to the highs again later in the day, really nice respect off of the resistance there, and it turned all the way back down. You'll notice one big thing. We're cycling back and forth between the area of weekly resistance up here, weekly support and resistance here, and now monthly support and resistance in here. We're getting a lot of back and forth inside. So this back and forth is creating somewhat of an expanding megaphone to the downside. It has a slight little downward trend. And with that downward trend, we expect to see them at least make it halfway up into the megaphone, if not all the way higher. In one area, if you know me, you know what one I'm looking for is right there at the top of the wedge, or I guess top of the megaphone, and horizontal resistance at 1253.5. It's got a lot of work to do before it gets up there, but if we can get it around that area, it would be a beautiful longer-term sell if it goes up there. Now, a couple intermediary locations of interest. We had the double bottom that was put in here, actually triple bottom. They broke through it, failed the breakout to the downside, and now we are hovering back around that area again. So with that continued area of support and resistance, it's expected that they're going to be fighting over this level, maybe for a little while. If we can get a pop higher here, short-term resistance at 52.2, could find some scalps off of it, but again, I am waiting for that big boy right there, 53.5, right at the top of the bear megaphone. See if we can get a longer-term sell right around that area. Over on crude, fairly good bullishness overall. Drawing from the lows of yesterday into today, we can see that we are creating a big old wedge bottom coming through. And if we were to put this as a channel, if we copy paste that, put it in the highs of a channel, we can see that they did respect it. They broke through the highs, support, broke back through. So we may be able to use this as an area of interest, but for the most part, we've already tested it as resistance, we've already tested it as support. It's kind of done. So it is an area that I will keep an eye on, but I wouldn't put a huge amount of emphasis on that, just given the overall context. We are narrowing down into the lower edge of the wedge, and we have a combination set up with daily support, rising support, and 60-minute support, 42.49 or so, all coming into the same place. So if we can get a quick dip down into that area, we may be able to find that longer-term buy for a pop right back up. All in all, at the moment, we're looking at a possible wedge. We have a wedge top coming down, and we are forming another wedge right there. And this one is a little bit more aggressive. We have a big spike down, and then we're going into a little bit of a wedge. And notice that massive bear candle to the downside, how it's just completely separating from price. That does open up objectives kind of floating around in the middle here. So because of that, we might as well just narrow it down and say, you know what? We have objectives to the downside. We have a bunch of support starting to come together here. That's just kind of the area of interest. So again, another hot spot that we could be potentially looking for. This one doesn't have a whole lot of time to get there, so it's either going to have a big breakdown, or it may come into it a little bit late, and then we're going to have to kind of deal with a little bit of slop there as well. Nice bullish trend overall, but a pretty big failure, and we can see that this big spike higher is very similar to that big spike down, and this could be what you would consider a twin reversal with a big distance gap on the highs. A distance gap is nothing more with a market pause, and then it equals out the break down as the break up. So for the most part, this could easily fall right back down to the lows, but we do have a lot of support in the way for the buyers to try to defend at, and plenty of room to drop as well if that does break down. So a little bit of a range, but at the moment, I'm looking at this as a possible last chance sort of buy down at 49s or so for another bounce higher. And then finally, the S&P, good old range-bound S&P. We have the range highs looking pretty good at 38.5 down to 37. Range lows looking a little bit wider, down from 30.5 to 28.5. With rising support that was attempting to come through, it has broken since we started the recording, so we'll get rid of that. Not really a whole lot else going on, though. We just are looking at this as a range. Buy low, sell high, stay out of the middle. And, well, we're kind of in the bottom third, I suppose. We're towards the bottom of the range, but we're not really down there enough. We're starting to just tap the highs, knock on the door of those highs of the range bottom, but I'd prefer to see them get a little bit lower, and I would love to see them dig down to that 28.5 to see if we can get some buying pressure. So right now, for me at least, it's going to be off the table, sitting on hands until we get a little more downside movement for some better prices to buy into. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Now, looking at tomorrow's calendar, today we didn't really have much. This whole week has been very light on news. And tomorrow, it's a lot of the same. At 3:30 tomorrow morning out of the Eurozone, actually specifically out of Germany, we have the German manufacturing PMI for June that is forecasted at 59 even. At 8:30 out of Canada, we have the core CPI for May. No forecast on that, but the previous was 0%. And then at 10 o'clock for tomorrow, in the U.S. session, we have the new home sales forecasted at 597 versus the previous of 569. That's about it. So no big news aside from just the small weekly things that you would expect to see. And given the week that we've had so far, there may be a lot of traders that don't even show up for tomorrow, or they may show up for an early in, get their money, early out, take off and head down to the beach for some nice weather. We'll have to see. But like we always say, make the plan, trade the plan, follow the rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.